nutshell, if we were to recap everything, we're the most concerned about the true sense of waltz and the fact that waltz has a swinging action that has to be produced through the base of the legs, so that all three of your horizontal lines in your body, across your knees, your hips, and your shoulder lines, that as I create this pendulum swinging action from the base of my legs, that you can see that from the knee, the hip, to the shoulder, the line is all still connected, isn't it? And so because the lady is so responsible to create all these shapes of the body to embellish the picture, right, that if the base has not really created that swing, and they try to create these shapes just through the upper body, that we see that the upper body is no longer really structured over the base at all. And I've broken the lines of the body by allowing the shoulder weight to come off of the hip base, which would actually obviously make you lose your balance, but more than anything, you don't look very good.
And you can make yourself very heavy.
You just don't look very good because the lines of your body are broken. We want to constantly show good, clean vertical and horizontal lines in our body as we move through the space and from the shape. So again, if I think about the actual connection of the side of my legs, my IT band, the adductor muscles here, to feel that the legs are being connected up to stay in line with my hip joints, that as I work and swing, that I take the side of these legs and I work them up to the direction that I want to travel. So at all times, the center of your body has to feel that it's poised towards your partner, but still has to have the concept that the base swings. So that once we actually produce the swing, then the weight actually takes off through levity. And that's such a strong part of the characterization of the music, is to see that release of the weight through the motion, that I feel that that's really enhancing everything that's happening musically. And again, to remind ourselves that when it starts, is as we are continuing to move through the one. So you can see as I've moved through this one, I've stopped myself halfway through, that you see a connection of weight still into both legs. That as my center progresses forward or backwards to whichever direction that I'm going, that the center must at that time start to elevate and the swing of the legs follow through. So that as I move through count 2, 3, I move through count 2, 3 in the shape that was produced from the floor. So here's your open reverse turn again. You see the shape swing up to the direction. You see the turn change the direction, still while maintaining the shape.
So the actual shape change is occurring on 1, and
As
2, 3 is carrying
it out. It carries it out through levity. It has to be released up through the motion, and as it's released up to the motion, you
levity
must...
doesn't necessarily mean a jump.
If you lower, that gives you more time to prepare
To
and
you.
go in the same direction, in the next direction.
And so again, let's remind ourselves that to truly change the direction of a movement requires the foot to actually take the responsibility to change the direction. The body in rotation around the spine is always the prep to change a direction, but the true sense of the direction occurs with the pivoting action of the foot. So when I do create that change of the direction through the pivoting action of the foot, the body stops turning at that point so that I can land outside partner in CVMP.
Do you think on left turns it's the right foot? Is that safe to say? For what you just did?
Well, yeah, it's the end of the second step, whether it's the left or the right foot. It's the end of the second step usually. And we alternate that responsibility to whoever is going forward. The forward party of the turn is going to be the party that continues the rotation through the pivoting action of the ball of the foot.
On the second step.
Off of the second step.
Okay.
Because like we were talking about when you were turning, that I needed that second step to feel more forward, didn't we? So if that second step feels more forward, that once I've actually connected to it, then I can actually create my pivoting action. But if I start turning too early, as far as changing the direction, the spine actually starts reversing away from the direction, and the energy falls backwards of the turn, which gets her backward obviously. So if I do that, then the spine is no longer traveling forward through the turn, is it? That the spine is actually traveling sideways across the turn. And my fear of that is that the upper part of the center is no longer traveling to the proper direction. It's actually working against it.
only other,
This is, remember that.
we talked, well, actually, this is a reinforcement in context of what he talked about just then. If we're out of that weave, if we land in that weave position, and he's talking about how you need to turn this left side to begin turning. See what I'm saying?
See, every time you enter count one, you're going to enter count one in CBN, which means that the body has to be rotating to the direction and to the foot that you've stepped with. So years ago, they used to say, take your right side to your left foot, take your left side to your right foot. Well, in essence, that's kind of visually what you see happening. The point is that I've got to get my center connected to my foot. And so if I use the outside force of rotation and use the outside to go to the inside, that's going to connect my center to my foot, isn't it? So I feel balanced to that foot. So every time that you step from count three, which is your lowering action, into a one, you will induce rotation of the body. Because the inevitable is that wherever you've landed count three is not necessarily where you're going to go on one. The one is going to get turned. So the alignment of where you landed three to the alignment of one is now slightly different, isn't it? So as long as turn is being used, the alignment of every step is going to be a little different. You'll really never have two steps in the same alignment. They both may be forward, but they're forward in a different alignment because of the turn of the body. The body keeps turning through 1 to 2. CBN through 1 and 2. And again, whether the shape is in an open position or whether the shape is in a closed position, the rotation of the head on the axis needs to stay to be just that it rotates on the axis. That it doesn't rotate to the point that the head weight is now off of the center and onto the left side or onto the right side. So I'll do the running weave at the camera incorrectly, and you can see me crank my head over to where it's on the left side. And then I open it back up and it's on the right side. So that's just making my center weave back and forth and never having a solid direction of movement. So I'm going to rotate the head on the axis so that the head weight still is lined up to the center.
Looks very smooth.
Well, yeah, because there's no interruptions to the direction. It's smooth because the center weight's passing through my feet.
Exactly.
And not ever being deflected off of my feet. And that's hard when the girl does that because you're connected to her. You're telling her through your connections to go one way. She's bouncing off of the four walls in here and not feeling secure about moving forward into you because weight is pulling her away from that direction.
Complicated stuff, but it's so simple. And it's
It's a three-step dance. It's a three-step dance. How hard could it be?